New leadership. The new leadership was elected at its Provincial Elective Conference in Bloemfontein in the early hours of this morning. Well, Free State Police, Roads and Transport MEC Sam Mashinini has been elected as the new ANC chairperson at the 8th Provincial Elective Conference in Bloemfontein. Well, his deputy is a former secretary and coordinator of the Provincial Task Team, Bulwane. The secretary is former PTT convenor Paseka Nom-pondo. Well, the Speaker of the Legislature, miki Qabathe, is now the Deputy Secretary, whilst Sisi Ntombela, who has been Premier for 2 months, is the new Treasurer. For an update on the story, we are now joined by our reporter, Palesa Moeti, who is in Bloemfontein, where the Free State ANC Conference is taking place. Very good morning to you, Palesa. What can you tell us about the newly elected Free State ANC leadership, which is now led by Mashinini?
Good morning, Shante. We are standing in front of the provincial headquarters of the ANC here in the Free State. The conference ended this morning, very early this morning, after the announcement of the top 5 as well as the additional members of the PEC. Now, of the top 5 that you've just mentioned now, 3 of them come from the PEC that was disbanded by the High Court in December. Only 2 members, that is Sisi Ntombela and the new chairperson, Mashinini, are actually new within the PEC. So, you know, that's an interesting development. But also, just to let you know, we actually had this list of the top 5 much earlier yesterday in the evening, hours before the announcement. And coincidentally, when the announcement was made, it was exactly that list that we had that was announced. So, you know, we've not been able to speak to the ANC since, you know, the announcement has been made and people being appointed. At this stage, all their phones are off. I suppose they're still sleeping because, as you can imagine, we were told that it ended at around 4:03 a.m. this morning. So, you know, they must still be sleeping. But we're told that actually, this is now by our sources, that there was a predetermined list and that there was never really contestation, you know. We were told that this list was as is and there were no nominations. Normally with a conference of this nature, previously even last year in December with a conference that was disbanded, when nominations started, we were allowed. But in this case, it was a closed session. So the media was, you know, requested to stay outside and for those processes to unfold. Only much later on, when the announcement was made, which was in the early hours of this morning, those that were still there were able to go inside to just get shots of, you know, the big celebration of the top 5 being announced. And then immediately after that, obviously, requested to exit once again. But yes, the top 5, as you have it, it's Sam Mashinini, the chairperson, Bulwane as the deputy chairperson, Paseka Nom-pondo as the secretary, and the deputy secretary as miki Qabathe, and the treasurer as the newly appointed, or 2 months in her position, the Premier Sisi Ntombela. At this stage, we're still trying to get hold of the ANC to just get comment, perhaps speak to the new chairperson. Also, as you are aware, that there is a disgruntled group that didn't get an opportunity to participate in the conference, and they've indicated that they will be approaching the court, again, just like last year, to have this conference nullified. Those processes will be unfolding during the course of this week. We are anticipating around maybe Tuesday or Wednesday that we will be back again in court to hear those arguments once again unfolding. And their position has always been that the PTT that was established after the disbandment of the PEC last year. Now, the PTT is the Provincial Task Team that was established by the NEC to help the province to fix the wrongs that the High Court had found, which was, according to the ruling, what processes that were riddled with irregularities that led up to the conference last year, as well as branch general meetings which did not sit, as well as audits that were not completed at the branch level. So, you know, we're expecting once again another court, hearing this week. It's definitely not over. You know, the conference might have happened, but there's still more coming that we're expecting this week. Shante?
Engaging reaction from the ground, how has the new leadership been received among ANC members?
Well, at this stage, because it's still quite early, the only people that were celebrating were the delegates at the conference last night. So on the ground, because we still have groups that are not happy, I mean, when we spoke to the faction that is now intending to go to court, they in fact said to us that the delegates that attended this conference were not legitimate. So already there, it's, you know, it just shows that there's still problems in the Free State. So they believe the delegates were not legitimate. You know, the rightful people that were meant to be at the conference apparently were swapped with others that would favor the previous PEC and get the outcomes that have emerged from this conference. So, you know, I think most of the reactions will probably get throughout the day. We also noticed that yesterday some of the PTT members also were not present at the conference. We had previously, we knew that the former mayor of Mangaung Metro was also the previous deputy provincial chairperson under Ace Magashule, Thabo Manyoni. He didn't show up for the conference. And also another PTT member who is Mkolisi Dukwane, who also didn't show up for the conference. We don't know whether any excuses were given for their absence, but it was quite noticeable that those that were not in support of, you know, the faction that is currently now in place were not in this conference.
Now take us through the importance of the leadership that was elected at this conference, specifically with the run-up to elections coming up next year.
Please repeat that, Shante. I didn't quite hear that.
In terms of the leadership that has now been elected in Bloemfontein in the Free State, just take us through the significance and the importance specifically with the run-up to elections next year.
Well, these are quite, these are heavyweights, I must say. In terms of the run-up up to next year, remember with the current problems that the ANC is facing in the province, they've also actually admitted to us that if they are unable to bring unity and, you know, unify the organization, it's not looking good for them, you know, in next year's elections. Even yesterday, in the keynote address by NEC member Nomvula Mkonyana, she was emphasizing the issue of unity and the need to embrace those with different views. You know, she mentioned that although the views of the majority are supposed to dominate, but the minority should also be listened to. So, with the current state of the ANC in the Free State and the divisions that we are seeing at this stage, they themselves have admitted that, you know, they really need to work hard for them to make some serious inroads next year and maintain, you know, the majority.
Definitely.
Shante?
We thank you very much for unpacking that of that elective conference that has just taken place in Bloemfontein in the Free State. For SABC News on the ground, Palesa Moeti. Moving on, the ANC hopes to